I'm joined now by a friend of the show and one of the sharpest legal minds in the business. Judge Tarlika Nunez-Navarro is a former judge, former prosecutor, and currently the dean of the St. Thomas University College of Law. Judge, it's good to have you here on a day like this. How damning are those texts, the ones that I just read out? Because that's all I have right now.
Well, good evening, Ashley. This is a tragic, tragic case. My condolences to Erica and the children, and also to the family of the defendant. This is horrible for everyone. How damning are these text messages? Honestly, as a former defense attorney, I cringe hearing them. I just see element after element after element. Witness, obstruction of justice. We have witness tampering. We have lack of remorse. Covering up picking up the rifle, just going on and on about his grandpa's rifle. That's what he's worried about. I mean, it's damning after damning after damning. It shows a direct admission of guilt and certainly will be used in the death penalty sentencing as aggravators for lack of remorse.
So then let's talk about the other side, because I see just a big old mountain of evidence against this guy. The premeditation, the callousness, the carelessness. I mean, careless doesn't count when they're looking at aggravators and mitigators, but look at him here in the suicide vest. There was reporting as well that his parents had to talk him out of taking his life before going in to report himself to the sheriff. How much of that will his defense side be able to work into his case, saying, look, he's 22 years old, he got radicalized by his feed, he came from a good family, they were Trump-loving, Trump-supporting, he was not this leftist that everybody makes him out to be, he somehow was taken that way by the feed. Will they be able to do something like that to establish some kind of diminished capacity to mitigate down from death?
That's going to be an uphill battle for them. When we look at a death penalty case, we look at aggravators and mitigators. So we're talking about the mitigation here. And, you know, you have a 22-year-old, yes, that's mitigation, but you have a 22-year-old who knows what he did. He knows that it was a crime. He's intentionally trying to cover it up. He had premeditation. This was not an accident. So, you know, an insanity defense is not going to work because an insanity defense requires you to not understand right or wrong. So that's going to be an uphill battle on the mitigation side.
Yeah. For sure, insanity is off the table. There is no shot there. And there's the picture in the middle of us to prove that he was running for cover, which is the mere definition of knowing something's wrong, when you're running away to try to secret yourself and secret the gun away. Yeah, you know right from wrong. Insanity is off the table. But what about those other gradations? State to state, they call it different things, but it's effectively the guy was somewhat mentally ill, and it should factor in to death penalty or no death penalty. Again, it's all in the mitigation, because I think this guy is never going to skate from a guilty verdict here. I really don't, not with the evidence we've learned so far, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. What about that diminishing aspect? And again, it's different in every state. I don't know what it is in Utah, but diminished capacity is often what we hear.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to hear about it. That's all the defense really has. As a prior defense attorney, you know, we can't pick our facts. So they have really nothing else to utilize in the mitigation. This is a damning case. There's a ton of evidence, and the mitigation is going to be slim, and they have to use the fact that, you know, he is very careless, but at the same time, he was incredibly premeditated. The intent was there, the motive was there, and it's going to be an uphill battle on diminished capacity, I have to tell you.
Let me ask you something, Judge. Are they going to more than likely have his own family members testify against him? Because that would be one of the most, as a mom, that would be the most painful thing to see, bringing family members in to point the finger.
Like I said, this is a sad case for both families, all families involved. I imagine that the family will be subpoenaed to testify, and they will have to come in. They may be hostile, but it doesn't appear so. The parents convinced him to turn himself in, and they did the right thing here. And I think they will be called as witnesses and have to testify against their son, yes.
It's easy for us to say they did the right thing, but as a mother, you sort of put yourself in those shoes and think, could I turn my son over to the state for an execution? It's hard. And I don't know where our viewers are. We're all over the map in our politics in this little crime community that we have on this program. And it doesn't matter what your politics are. I feel for Brian Koberger's family. They weren't the killers. I feel for this guy's family. I feel for Luigi Mangione's family. The families of, you know, of people who either did or are alleged to have done terrible things didn't do those things, and yet they find themselves in the worst predicament and the most painful, you know, situation. So in that respect, that's why I said it would be painful to see a mother or a father having to come into court and point at their son, no matter what, you know, he's accused of. Last quick question. A lot of people are saying the roommate has exposure, and the fact is that this guy texted to his roommate, remember when I was engraving the bullets. Can you set the record straight on what your duty to respond is as a basic civilian, not a public figure, not a teacher, not a government employee, just a roommate? Do you have any duty to call police if you see someone engraving bullets?
Absolutely. You have a duty. Hear something, say something, see something, say something. As soon as those text messages came through, he had a duty to call the police department. That was made very clear by the governor of that state and the police and the investigators. And, you know, I think he did the right thing from what I can tell. I think he did notify the police. He handed over his text messages. He did not conceal them. And so I do not believe he will be charged. I believe he fully cooperated.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, morally, yes, of course, we all have a duty. Legally, I don't think you can be charged unless you're, again, a public official. You have a duty to respond to something like that looks like imminent danger, you know, is ahead of you. But for that roommate, the texts look to me like the roommate was pretty damn shocked. Is this really you? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I mean, I think that's pretty strong evidence. Judge, it's really good to have you. I'm so sad about where we are as a nation and how some people celebrated this death and how others celebrated the death of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare worker. Like, I'm so tired of vigilante justice and those who support it, because there's no end to it. Once you jump in that bin, anybody's game, you know? If your message isn't palatable, well, then the next guy apparently is okay to perform the judge, jury, executioner duties, and that's really a sad state. I appreciate you being here.
Yes, it's a sad day in America, Ashley. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you, Judge. Judge Tarlika Nunez-Navarro, always good to have a judge on board.